Hello, everybody. This is going to be the growing more from flowers or from a junkyard. This is going to overview the discussion board prompt. First of all, make sure that you've done the persuasion and argumentation quiz and definitely this one. This one sets up the essay models and how to oppose and refute. That's what you're going to be doing here. So let's go ahead and go into it. All right. So last week you wrote about Maya. You had to compare and contrast Maya Angelou with Mrs. Flowers and in the junkyard. This time you're going to take that information and you're going to say, growing more. Where did she learn more? Did she learn more by being with Mrs. Flowers? Did she have more of a life change by being in the junkyard? So prompt, did Maya grow more from being with Mrs. Flowers, or did she grow more from being in the junkyard? So now we're talking about, we're going to choose a pro and a con. And if this doesn't make sense to you, go watch those go take those two quizzes. They will help you. So if you think that Mrs. Flowers was more of a benefit, or she learned more with her, Mrs. Flowers will be your pro. The junkyard will be your con, or vice versa. And this time we're going to write an opposing and a refuting paragraph. Because remember, in argumentation essay, you always want to have an opposing and a refuting paragraph in that essay. We're only writing a paragraph. So let me pull up that document. You can find that document in the argument quiz that I just showed you, or you can pull it up here. I'm going to just download it so I have it, and you should have a copy of this. So this document is ways to organize an argumentation essay. And if you take a look here, here are some ways to do that. But what we're going to concentrate on right now is we just want to look at the counter argument and refuting. So if we were writing model A, and this is going to repeat a lot of the video, so I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it. Intro paragraph, give the thesis. Pro, if you're Mrs. Flowers, it would be pro, pro, pro. And then here the counter argument is where you would bring in, well, I am pro. I think that she learned more with Mrs. Flowers. However, there are others who think that she learned more in the junkyard. Then you would put the junkyard and then refute it or spin it back to Mrs. Flowers. So we're going to go over this, and the other video will help you, okay? So have a copy of this. What we're going to do is we're going to oppose and refute. Again, this is just a paragraph. It's a discussion board post. It's a paragraph. And this paragraph would be a counter, an opposing and a refuting paragraph in a larger essay that I just showed you. So here are the parts you need to just concentrate on for the discussion board. Part 1, you introduce the opposing argument. Part 2, acknowledge the valid parts. Maybe because even if I chose Mrs. Flowers, but there were good parts about the junkyard as well, so bring those in. Part 3, counter that argument. Spin it back to your side. She did learn some good things in the junkyard. However, Mrs. Flowers taught her blah, 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 and then close it. Here's a way you could do it. This is the way you will do it for my discussion board post. So obviously you have your heading, the title. Here I used Angela and Lee, but for this I will talk about Mrs. Flowers and junkyard. Remember, Mrs. Flowers is my pro, junkyard is my con. So opposing views may claim that the junkyard is a better, or she learned more in the junkyard than she did with Mrs. Flowers. Junkyard is my con, pro is Mrs. Flowers. So you can set it up by using part 1 here. And then again, that document, this document part 1, introduce the opposing, it gives you clues or how to set it up. Okay, opposing views claim. What did I use? Opposing views claim. Then jump to part 2. Then you might want to say, admittedly, in the junkyard, she learned about working well with others, blah, 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 blah. And where did I get that? Part 2, and here's some words that you can use to set it up. Part 3, we want to counter the argument, refute. Refute means to spin it back. Spin it back to my pro, which is Mrs. Flowers. All right, and then the keywords or clue words you can use here are nevertheless, however. And then part 4 is your conclusion. And again, here are some keywords that you can use. All right. And then here's one from my 201 class that she did. So obviously I took her name out, heading, title, who's from a higher social class. So here it is. She's saying Atticus is from a higher social class, but it is often argued that Mama is from a higher social class. Mama here is her con, Atticus is her pro. So give evidence to the opponent. Certainly those readers have the right to believe that Mama is part of the higher social class. Most readers, all right? Part 3, counter the argument. She's going to come back and spin it to herself. So Atticus is from a higher social class, right? So then she's going to spin it back to Atticus. This is from To Kill a Mockingbird. Many of you have probably read it in high school. One of my favorite books. But anyway, and then the conclusion, and then the works cited. For you, you're only going to have a work cited because you're only using the novel. So Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Should be an S there. But anyway, you don't have these two. In English 201, it's more work. And then so you'd have works cited, and then Angelou, boom. That's all you need. So go through here. This is what your discussion board post will look like. Okay? Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. How do I get these started? Come back here to the document. Here's a good way to start Part 1. How to start Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. All right? And then I give you another example here of how to do it, but yours will look like this. Even when you write your essays, your research essay, your opposing and refuting paragraphs will look like this. I want the Part 1, 2, Part 3, Part 4. Again, I'm sounding like the other video and sound like a broken record. Would you ever really put this in another paper? No, but for my class, I want you to have it. It's a good learning tool. It's a good guide to stay on track. Okay, let me get out of here. So here's the sample here. The essay models are here. Here's one that I've done. Here's one that an actual student has done. And the one that I really think you should use because it really stays on track is opposing views may claim that. I think it's just very clear because opposing views may claim that, and you know your cons coming here and then your pro. So opposing views may claim that Lee, Harper Lee, con, Angela would be my pro, my favorite author. Or claim that the junkyard is better than Mrs. Flowers. Opposing views claim the junkyard. The junkyard is my con, so opposing views, the con, the other side, thinks that the junkyard is. However, I think that Mrs. Flowers is, which is my pro. Alrighty, I don't want to beat a dead horse. So it has to be 250 words. Use this, guys, look, go back to the week 4 discussion board. You have the support there already. So take the compare and contrast and turn it and manipulate it and make it a opposing and refuting. You have everything there. You have the in-text citations. You may have to look in the novel again, but I don't think you should. I think you have the material there. I do that for a reason. I really want you to concentrate on setting up the opposing and refuting rather than looking for new material. Okay, and obviously the discussion board initial post is due on Wednesday. Post it in the thread, and then submit it to the document so that I can grade it. Okay, everybody, good luck. Thank you. Bye.